Hello, my name is Michelle Temple, and this is my digital story One Life to Serve All In. As I think about my journey to counselor educator, I took the opportunity to reflect on some unseen lighthouses in my personal life, things that have guided me to this present moment. Not people, not places, but stories, experiences with books, with movies, and with television shows. So I first want to tell you about two movies from that I remember when I was really fairly young, and they are Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas and Watership Down. Now, both of these movies are about family, about community, and that these communities, for some reasons, this family, for some reason, was disrupted, and for the family and the community to stabilize, there was a need to fight, whether it was a competition or whether it was literally fighting for their lives. They were about giving gifts, giving support and encouragement to one another. And because they were about family and community, there was this undercurrent of love in those movies. And then I want to tell you about some game shows also that seem to have uh, quietly fed me in this desire of intellect, common sense, and optimism. And so intellect in the sense that in order to play any game show, you had to have some intelligence and to play it well. But you also had to have some common sense to play Double Dare or Family Feud. You couldn't just spew out an answer because you wanted to sound smart, because if you did that, you probably got it wrong and you likely lost. But regardless of that, to enjoy the experience, there is this sense of optimism, or for me, this continued sense of optimism that actually it serves as an undercurrent for most game shows. So as I think about it, I really liked game shows because you could be smart, you could show your common sense, and you could just have this positive outlook on the whole experience. Now, not only did I have the shows or the movies from my early childhood, the game shows, but there were also two pieces of literature. One was a poem called Invictus, and the other was a play called For Color Girls Who Considered Suicide When the Rainbow Was Enough, that also were huge lighthouses in some pretty rough times in my life. And these two pieces of literature were about the wounded, the vulnerable, and the determined people. So even though these people were wounded, they were still determined. Even though they were determined, they were still vulnerable. Vulnerable to love, to emotions, to experience, to succeed, to fail. And then in recent years, I say recent, I mean the last 15, 20 years, there are three other kind of movies that I hadn't really thought about as far as how much they've served as lighthouses for me, just thematically. The Matrix, Dune, if you know that movie, and then finally a more recent one, which is Black Panther. And as I reflect on these three movies, they're all three, of course, men. And I acknowledge I don't have my relationship with my dad wasn't the best, so I think that may have influenced my affinity for movies that have positive male figures. But these movies had male figures that had authority, who demonstrated humility and believed in justice. And so all of them do. And I find that very, very interesting. And they all had people that they were responsible for, and they took their role of leadership very seriously, even if they were timid initially about the responsibility. Each man in these movies eventually, if you will, rose to the occasion. Which reminds me of my faith in Jesus Christ, how he rose to the occasion. He demonstrated integrity, mercy, and compassion, which I just told a class yesterday, those are three must haves in my life when I think about values. Integrity, doing what is, living by what I believe is right and wrong. Mercy, offering forgiveness when it's not asked for. Offering kindness when it's not asked for. And then, of course, compassion, knowing that I am just a sinner saved by grace. I find it interesting that as I think about all of those movies and television shows that I've just shared, the intellect and common sense are all a part of that, right? Intellect, you're never too smart, and common sense, it's you. There's no such thing as not being dumb, right? You have some basic information that you can use to make good choices, and which is interesting because I firmly believe that everybody counts, and that everyone, whether I believe what you believe or not, as a human being, you have a right to exist on this planet. And so, what does that any of this have to do with this notion of one life to serve all in my own journey? Well, when my son was about 3, my mom came up to visit me, and I said, "Mom, no, I don't know, I don't remember much of my childhood. We've talked about that. So, can you tell me a story that you remember when I was, I don't know, 4, 5?" And she immediately thought of a story when she, my dad, and my sisters were in this park, and we were walking along the trail, and we came to a bridge. And she said it wasn't a rickety bridge, but it was narrow. And that she turned to my dad and said, "I'm not crossing that bridge. I'm turning around." And what she recalled was how I was already holding her hand, but that I took my other hand and I put it on top of hers. And she said, I looked at her with my 5-year-old brown eyes and said, "Don't worry, Mommy. I'll help you across." So all of my life, I've wanted to serve people, to be a fellow traveler with them across the bridges of life. In this opportunity to serve as a counselor educator, to help others learn how to do that, kind of blows my mind that I'm even here right now preparing to do that. So my life portrait is made up really of 6 qualities: salt, equity, grace, access, light, and inclusion. Salt is for integrity. Equity is because everybody counts. Grace, because we all make mistakes. Access, because we all need opportunity. Light, because the world is full of sin, and the only way that we as believers, me as a Christian, can serve the one true God is I must live in such a way that people know that He lives and He lives within my heart. And then inclusion, that the Lord doesn't want anyone to go to hell, and nor do I. And as I think about this journey to counselor education and supervision, I think there's a way to prepare counselors who are Christian, those who are not, uh, to to be the light of the world. Now, I would love for any counselor who's not a Christian to become a Christian, but that's not my work. My work, my prayer is that the Lord allows me to plant that seed in every student, professional that I come across, to consider, if they are not already a Christian, how the Lord Jesus Christ can make the world in their lives and in the lives of the clients that they serve. So that's my life. That's my digital story. I hope it made sense. I really enjoyed this assignment. Thank you so much. Have a great day.